There's an engineer. We won't name her because this isn't one story. It's millions of stories wearing the same face. She wakes up at 7, 9 hours of work, a raise every year, somewhere between 5 and 7%, right on schedule. She looks at her payslip and feels something close to pride. The number is bigger than last year. But the house she wants to buy? That house gets further away every single year. This is not bad luck. It is not a personal failure. It is not, she should have budgeted better. It is a design. And the question you should be asking isn't, how much am I earning? The question is this: is what I'm earning actually growing? Or is it just the number that's growing while the value underneath it quietly shrinks? Over the next 20 minutes, we're going to open up a machine that runs every single day, in plain sight, touching every transaction you make. And yet most people who use it every day have never once looked inside. By the end, you won't see your salary the same way again. You might be thinking, this is an old story. The middle class has always struggled. That's true. But here's the difference. The struggle used to be about survival. Not enough food, not enough shelter, not enough opportunity. Today's struggle is different. It's a struggle with illusion. Today's middle class has more tools than any generation before it. Mutual funds, index funds, credit cards. EM is on everything from phones to furniture to pizza. Financial content is everywhere. YouTube, Instagram, podcasts, newsletters, all promising to teach you how money works. And yet, savings rates are falling. Household debt is climbing. And that dream, the house, the retirement, the financial freedom everyone talks about, keeps sliding further down the timeline. So the problem isn't a lack of information. People today know more about money than any generation in history. The problem is that the system itself is built so that effort and reward quietly stop matching. Not because anyone is lazy, not because anyone made a bad decision, because of something almost nobody looks at. The thing sitting inside every note in your wallet and every number on your banking app. Let's go there. Let's start from the ground up. Not the textbook way, the way it actually plays out in your life. A currency, the rupee, the dollar, doesn't matter, has one core job: to store value. You work today, you earn money, and you put that money away trusting that tomorrow it will buy you roughly the same things it buys you today. Maybe more if you're doing well. That's the promise. And it's a promise that quietly breaks, year after year, in a way most people never notice happening in real time. Here's why. Every year, central banks, the Reserve Bank of India, the US Federal Reserve, the European Central Bank, doesn't matter which one, expand the money supply. New currency gets created and enters the system. Sometimes through direct printing, more often through banks lending more than they have in reserves, backed by central bank policy. Let's make this simple. Imagine a village where exactly 100 rupees circulate among everyone. One day, without any new goods, without any new services, without anyone producing anything extra, another 100 rupees suddenly appears in that village. What happens? Prices double. Because there's twice the money chasing the same amount of stuff. That is, in essence, what happens in a real economy, except it doesn't happen overnight. It happens slowly, in small increments, spread across years, so that no single moment feels dramatic enough to notice. Economists have a polite word for this. They call it inflation. I'd call it something else. An invisible tax that falls almost entirely on people whose money sits in cash or in a salary, and barely touches people whose money sits in assets. Let's sit with that distinction, because it's the whole video. Here's where it gets uncomfortable. Say your salary grows 6% a year. On paper, that feels like progress. You're moving up. But if real inflation, the version you feel in rent, groceries, school fees, healthcare, is running at 7 or 8%, you are not moving up. You are, in real terms, moving backward. The number on your payslip got bigger. The amount of life that number can buy got smaller. That gap between what your salary shows and what your salary can actually purchase. That's the part no HR department, no offer letter, no LinkedIn. I'm happy to announce Post ever mentions. Now let's add a second layer, because this is where the real story is. Asset inflation. Property prices, stock markets, gold, these also rise. But ask yourself why they rise faster than wages do. When new money enters an economy, it doesn't land equally on everyone. It lands first and heaviest on the people who already hold assets: banks, corporations, large investors, institutions with existing portfolios. That new liquidity flows into buying more property, more shares, more businesses. Demand for these assets rises, prices climb. So a house that cost 40 lakhs a decade ago is worth a crore today. Meanwhile, the salary of the person who wants to buy that house has, at best, doubled. This gap between how fast assets grow and how fast salaries grow is exactly where the middle class gets permanently left behind. Not because they made a mistake, because of where their money physically sits. Here's the core distinction, and I want you to actually hold on to this one. Middle-class income is earned in currency, a thing that is engineered to lose value every single year. Wealthy income is earned in assets, a thing that is engineered to gain value precisely because currency is losing it. This is not a conspiracy. Nobody sat in a room and decided to make you poor. It's simpler, and in some ways, more unsettling than that. It's a system that works better and better for the people already inside the asset economy, and works worse and worse for anyone still trying to enter it from the outside, one salary at a time. There's a second piece of this machine that deserves its own spotlight: debt. The modern middle class doesn't just earn a depreciating currency, it also borrows heavily in that same currency. Home loans, car loans, personal loans, credit card debt, education loans. Here's the twist most people never think through. Because currency loses value over time, debt technically gets cheaper to repay in real terms, as long as your income keeps pace with inflation. That's the one small mercy built into this system. But it only works if two things are true. Your income actually keeps pace, and the debt is funding something that appreciates like a home, not something that depreciates the moment you buy it, like a car, a phone, or a vacation on EMI. And this is where lifestyle-driven debt becomes dangerous in a very specific way. You take a loan in currency that's losing value to buy something that's also losing value, while your income struggles to even match inflation. That's three forces working against you simultaneously, and it's exactly why so many households feel like they're earning more every year while somehow having less breathing room every year. It's not contradictory. It's the math working exactly as designed. Now, a large part of mainstream financial advice tells you exactly one story. Cut your expenses. Skip the coffee. Start a SIP. Become a crorepati. Budget better. None of this advice is wrong, but it is incomplete. It treats a symptom while leaving the actual disease completely untouched. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you are only saving your salary, and that saving sits in currency, a savings account, a fixed deposit, cash under the mattress, you are, quietly, every single day, losing purchasing power, even while your account balance climbs. There's a real irony buried here. Most people consider a savings account safe and consider the stock market risky. But zoom out to 20 or 30 years, and it's often the opposite. A savings account guarantees a slow, steady erosion of value. It's a certainty, not a risk. Meanwhile, a diversified portfolio of productive assets, equity, real estate, ownership stakes in businesses, has historically been the thing that keeps pace with, or beats, the quiet erosion happening underneath. The people who understand this are not playing a different version of the same game. They are playing an entirely different game. Their income isn't the finish line. It's just the starting capital. They use income to acquire assets, and then let those assets generate more income, more ownership, more compounding, largely detached from how many hours they personally work in a week. The difference was never about who works harder. Everyone in this story is working hard. The engineer working 9-hour days is working hard. The difference is about who understood early enough that earning money and building wealth are two separate games with two separate rule books. And the system is very good at making sure only one of those rule books gets taught in school, at work, and on the news.
Let's make this concrete with a simple, honest comparison. Salaries. Person A saves diligently, puts money into a fixed deposit every month, avoids risky investments, feels responsible and disciplined. Person B takes a portion of the same income and consistently buys productive assets, a diversified equity portfolio, and eventually a piece of real estate through a long-term loan. Person B, on the other hand, now owns assets that have appreciated well beyond the original invested amount. And that appreciation happened largely without any additional daily effort. The assets simply exist. It's a story about intelligence. It's a story about which side of the currency versus asset line your money spent its life on.